All right, ready to dive into some really fascinating short stories.
Always up for a good literary deep dive.
Yeah, me too, especially when we get to explore a collection like The Last Summer of Mr. Dipodoidea.
Ah, Ghadah Kamal. She's something else, isn't she?
Absolutely. This book, it's been getting a lot of buzz,
Right.
and it's not hard to see why.
Right. I mean, just imagine stepping into one of those Sulfur Edition salons, the ones with the low lighting and everybody's kind of huddled around discussing the book.
Yeah, the energy in those rooms, always buzzing with ideas.
Exactly. And Kamal's work, it just lends itself perfectly to that kind of intense, passionate discussion. I mean, it's haunting and surreal and just packed with symbolism.
Yeah, it definitely goes beyond your average beach read.
It's more like think dark romanticism meets a deep dive into the human psyche. You know what I
It's
mean?
okay.
It's
So not exactly light and fluffy then.
not quite, but that's what makes it so compelling, right? The way Kamal weaves together these themes of dreams, desire, and the darker sides of human nature.
So where do we even begin?
Well, let's start with the first story. The Melatonin Ghost Town, shall we?
Yeah, good place to start. That one really threw me for a loop. I mean, you've got this group escaping a dystopia to build a city where dreaming is mandatory.
And on the surface, it sounds kind of utopian, right? Like, who wouldn't want to live in a world of blissful dreams?
Exactly. But then Kamal throws us a curveball. One character stops dreaming, and it all starts to unravel.
It's brilliant how she plays with that concept of desire. It reminded me a lot of Antoinette Pesquet, how she talked about the dangers of chasing unattainable desires.
Right. It's like the city's obsession with manufactured happiness backfires spectacularly.
Exactly. And then that ending where the character who stops dreaming chooses isolation, it just stays with you.
Yeah, like a ghost town in your mind. It makes
Yeah.
you question, is solitude a blessing or a curse in a world that's lost its way?
Exactly. And Kamal, she doesn't give us easy answers. She wants us to wrestle with these questions.
Okay, let's move on to The Girl Who Lost Her Colors.
Oh, this one. It's a gut punch, isn't it?
The imagery is just so vivid. This young girl wakes up from a coma, and the world is completely devoid of color except for black and white.
Ugh, I know. It's like you can feel her despair.
Yeah, and I think that loss of color is a really powerful metaphor for her emotional state.
Absolutely. It's like she's lost the vibrancy of life, the joy, the hope, it's all gone.
Right, and she's just left with this emptiness.
Kamal does an incredible job of pulling us into the girl's world, using those sensory details, or in this case, the lack thereof, to make us experience her loss firsthand.
Like trauma has literally changed her perception of reality.
Right. And that's a really interesting point. Is Kamal suggesting that our experiences can fundamentally alter how we see the world?
I think it's definitely something to consider. All right, ready for a bit of a change of pace?
Here, bring it on.
Oh, let's talk about The Musician and the Gun. Now, this one is a real mind bender.
Oh, yeah. It's a doozy.
So we had this musician, and he's haunted by this recurring nightmare. And in this nightmare, there's a rifle that keeps transforming into a guitar.
Okay, now we're talking symbolism.
Right. So what do you make of it?
Well, the rifle. I see that as representing violence, repression, kind of like a force that's trying to silence the musician, crush his artistic spirit.
And the guitar?
The guitar is the opposite, right? It's freedom, creativity, the musician's true voice.
So this nightmare, it's like a battleground for his subconscious.
Exactly. And the fact that the transformation happens over and over again, it highlights that internal struggle.
Right. The pull between his passion for music and these external forces that are trying to hold him back.
And then there's this really fascinating twist. When the musician finally confronts the figure in his dream, the rifle doesn't transform.
What do you think that means?
I think it's about facing your fears head on. By acknowledging the threat, by confronting it, he takes away its power.
Wow, that's powerful.
Kamal is telling us that sometimes the only way to break free is to face what scares us the most. And that whole idea of confronting your fears, it really resonates in the love triangle, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, talk about a classic dilemma.
Right. This protagonist torn between two loves. One's all about stability, the safe choice. The other, pure passion, untamed freedom.
Yeah. It's like, haven't we all been there at some point? Do we play it safe or risk it all for something that might just burn us?
Right. And the way Kamal portrays that internal struggle, it's like you can feel the protagonist being pulled in two different directions. It's so relatable.
Totally. And even when she makes a choice, it's not all sunshine and roses.
No, definitely not. There's still this sense of loss, like
Yeah.
no matter what path she chose, a part of her was sacrificed along the way. Kamal doesn't shy away from the messiness of it all.
No, not at all. It's like she's saying that even when we make the right decision, there's still a price to pay.
Exactly. Relationships, man, they're complicated, and there are no easy answers.
Speaking of complicated, can we circle back to the melatonin ghost town for a sec?
Mm.
I'm still thinking about the protagonist's friend,
Mm.
the one who chooses to stay in the dystopian state.
Oh, yeah, yeah. He's fascinating, isn't he?
It's like he's this voice of dissent in a world that's obsessed with manufactured happiness.
Right. Everyone else is chasing these blissful dreams, and he's like, nope, I'm sticking with reality.
Even if that reality is pretty harsh. He even warns his friend about it, right? Something like, don't lose yourself in a world of illusions.
Yeah. He sees the danger in escaping from the truth, even if that truth is painful. He chooses authenticity over escapism.
It really makes you question what true freedom is, doesn't it?
Definitely. Maybe it's not about escaping reality, but confronting it head on, messiness and all.
Maybe that's what ties all these stories together, this longing for something real in a world that feels increasingly artificial.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. And don't forget about resilience.
Oh, right. Think about the girl who lost her colors. Even though she's trapped in this monochrome world, she still has this glimmer of hope. She starts remembering the colors, like she's piecing her life back together.
It's a slow process, but she's fighting for it. She's resilient, kind of like the gecko in The Journalist and the Gecko, right?
Oh, yeah. The gecko clinging to the wall. It's like a symbol of survival, adaptation.
Exactly. It's thriving in an environment that seems totally hostile. It's a message of hope.
We can endure, we can adapt. We can create space for ourselves even when things are tough. Now, about that musician and his gun. What's with that transformation? The rifle becoming a guitar. Such a striking image.
I know, and I think it's key to understanding this story. The rifle, I see it as this external force, something that's trying to stifle the musician's creativity.
Right, it's like all those doubts and fears and societal pressures that artists face, holding them back.
And the guitar, that's his true self, his passion. It's waiting to be unleashed.
So the nightmare, it's this metaphor for the internal battle he's going through.
Exactly. And when he confronts the figure in his dream, the transformation stops.
He's reclaiming his power. He's saying, I won't be silenced.
And he's saying it through his art.
It's like a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the power of art to help us overcome our demons.
I like that. Kamal isn't afraid to explore those shadows, the messy parts of life.
No, not at all. And her writing, it's raw, it's honest, but even in the darkness, she finds these glimmers of hope. It's pretty remarkable. One thing that really strikes me about Kamal's writing is her use of language.
Oh, absolutely. It's so evocative, so precise.
Yeah, it's like she paints these vivid pictures with her words.
It's not just what she says, right? It's how she says it.
Right. The way she uses symbolism, all the layers of meaning.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about some specific passages that really stood out. In the Melatonin Ghost Town, there's this one line that perfectly captures the protagonist's disillusionment with the city of dreams. Something like, days bled into nights, and the world, once a canvas of vibrant hues, now appeared as a muted monochrome.
Oh, yeah, that one. It's such a powerful image.
It really is. It's like all that forced dreaming, all that manufactured happiness. It's just drained the color and vibrancy from her world.
Exactly. It's become this bleak, empty landscape.
And it's not just visual, right? Remember how she talks about the scent of guava? Even the scent of guava, a once beloved fragrance, failed to ignite a spark of desire.
It's like her senses are shutting down right along with her hope.
Totally. Kamal's showing us that true joy, true fulfillment, it can't be artificially created.
No, it has to come from within, from a genuine connection to ourselves and the world around us.
Absolutely. Okay, how about the girl who lost her colors? There's a passage that beautifully describes her initial perception of the world after waking up from her coma. Something like, her pupils could only discern black and white, the world's a stark canvas, devoid of the vibrant hues she vaguely remembered from a life before.
That vague remembrance is just heartbreaking.
I know. It's like she's lost something so precious and she can barely even remember it.
And calling the world a stark canvas just emphasizes that feeling of emptiness,
Yeah, it's like she's been stripped bare, emotionally and perceptually.
And again, it's Kamal's way of showing the profound impact of trauma.
Okay, the musician and the gun. Still thinking about that image of the rifle transforming into a guitar, there's a line that really sums up the musician's struggle. He went to bed, ready for his recurring nightmare. This time, however, his dream took a darker turn.
Ooh, yeah. That darker turn signals a shift, doesn't it?
It does. It's like he's not just passively enduring the nightmare anymore, he's about to confront it.
Head on.
And that confrontation leads to this incredible moment of liberation. He says something like, he realized he was dreaming, but when he raised the rifle and pulled the trigger, it didn't transform into a guitar.
Chills. That's the moment he breaks free.
Yeah, he's finally taking control. He's refusing to let the fear win.
And he's doing it through his art.
The love triangle is full of these emotionally charged lines, but there's one that always gets me. Something about how, feeling betrayed and lost, Unan walked away, leaving behind the warmth of Idis's embrace and the promise of a life entwined with his.
The way Kamal puts those two things together, the warmth and the loss, it's just brilliant.
It's so poignant. It really highlights the complexity of Unan's emotions.
She's drawn to Idis, to the love and security he offers, but he can't fully commit. And that creates this deep sense of betrayal.
And ultimately, walking away, even though it's painful, it's an act of self-preservation.
It shows how much strength it takes to walk away from something that isn't serving you.
Even if it means leaving a part of yourself behind. All right, last one. Back to the journalist and the gecko. There's this passage that perfectly captures the gecko's symbolism. Something like, he stopped short, his gaze drawn to a small gecko clinging to the damp wall. Its skin, a mottled tapestry of brown and gray, blended seamlessly with the crumbling plaster.
I love that description, especially how she talks about the gecko's skin blending in with the crumbling plaster.
It really emphasizes its ability to adapt and survive in this harsh environment.
It's a creature that thrives in the margins, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's a powerful metaphor for the protagonist's journey.
Absolutely. She's trying to rebuild her life after experiencing so much loss, trying to find her place in a new world.
And the gecko is this reminder that even in the midst of difficult circumstances, we can find a way to endure.
To adapt, to create a new space for ourselves.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Ghadah Kamal's The Last Summer of Mr. Dipodoidea.
Wow, what a journey. Kamal's stories, they're just so thought-provoking.
They really are. From dreams and desires to guilt, resilience, and the power of art, Kamal explores these really complex human emotions with such sensitivity.
Her stories, they really stay with you. They make you think about your own experiences, your own struggles.
We encourage you to revisit these stories, to really savor Kamal's language, and to discover your own interpretations of the hidden meanings woven throughout this collection.
The Last Summer of Mr. Dipodoidea, it's a testament to the power of literature, to move us, to challenge us, and ultimately to help us make sense of the world around us.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time for another literary adventure.